What's up, man? Hello, Spencer. Welcome to the virtual remote version of the Junkyard Love podcast.
Yes, I think this is the first time we have video, you and
Yeah,
I. Yeah.
yeah. We haven't done video yet. Eventually, it'd be nice to have video right freaking here. That's the plan, but things are a bit. There's a bit of a wrench in the system, as it may, with the coronavirus. So we're making do with what we have here. So you coming to me virtually, even though we're not super far away.
No, we're not. I will say one disclaimer. I have a cat. He likes to sit on my laptop, so he's
Yeah.
gonna poke in every once in a while. Hope that's all good, everyone.
These are just the things. I was listening to this thing. I think it was Jordan Hall was talking or answering some Q&A stuff um, on 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 his YouTube. But he was essentially they were talking about like as they're trying to pay attention. This is a new thing. Like so, if you had a plumber over, like I can hear that through. And as much as I'm trying to focus on the content of what you're saying, like you can't ignore the fact that you like are really like, oh man, it's so annoying. Like, so you have to almost work a little bit harder. But I think it's probably something that we can, like, the more that people do this sort of remote, like, conversation um, through our computers and our phones and stuff, the FaceTime sort of way, I think that we'll be able to like way easier just be like, oh, that's a sound that I'm not paying attention to, so I don't have to worry about it, you know. But as it is now, we're like very like, oh, we're very aware, like we hear something in the background and we're annoyed by it, or it's distraction easily.
Yeah, I find myself, especially if I haven't been like super mindful, super annoyed by small distractions.
Right. Right.
Yeah, because it has been, I don't know, I spent the first couple weeks just playing Xbox and lying around, and I'm so irritable. Like, I flipped my sleep schedule back around, and I feel a lot better, but dude, like,
Why'd you become irritable, you think? Like why did you
well,
start falling into it just by being at home?
no, it's not being at home. I think it's just the sleep schedule. You know, when you wake up at noon, you just don't wake up really. And
Yeah.
then you're like hypersensitive all day, but not in like a good, awesome way, like a not a good way.
Yeah, it's like starting your day with a late start. I did that working at the lumber mill for 5 years. I was on the same shift where I didn't wake up till 11:30 a.m. every day. And it's like this inevitable, like almost anxiety type feeling that you feel like you wake up and like 11:30, it's like, okay, that's 6.5, 7 hours of sleep. Like that's like waking up early as far as other people are concerned. But in your head, in your body, in like the way that the world has momentum already, the society has momentum, like everybody, like doctor's appointments have come and gone for other people. Like you wake up and you're just like, oh, no matter what, like what the reason, like whether you're laying around being a turd, or whether you're like going to work, or whether you're just like you don't have anything else to do because we're on quarantine, it still kind of makes you feel meh when you sleep into it.
And I felt like that. I felt like it was like 8 o'clock, and I'm like, damn, I didn't even get to do anything today. I didn't get anything done, even though I had nothing to get done. You know, it's still like that looming feeling of
Right.
just
Right. It's
not
weird that
productive.
we assign ourselves like, dude, you didn't do anything today. Like, cause sometimes you got to just like live life. Like, you got to be able to put the momentum of everything on pause and just have a day where it's like, dude, I didn't wake up until when the hell ever. That's fine. You got to be able to let yourself have those for sure. Just not every day, I suppose.
Yeah, I kind of went from working from like, well, I was out of the house from like 6 to 8 every single day to the last day of school was the first day of quarantine. So, and I'm not working now. So I went from 14 hours at work to no hours of anything. It was
Right.
just, and it made me really empathize with people that live like that anyways. Like normally, like people just kind of like lay around, they wake up real late, they stay up real late, and they just like don't exercise. Dude, I felt horrible, terrible.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, I feel like it kind of gave me the inside to like a lot of people's lives. And that sucks. I feel bad
Yeah.
for
It's
them.
hard to pry yourself away from that feeling. Like it feels like such like a permanent lethargy that you're just so used to in your everyday life. And it's hard to like gain that momentum and like, okay, get back in the gym, get back in a routine, get back in waking up early, like wanting to feel better because it's so easy to just veg out and not do those things.
Yeah, and there's like a certain amount of resistance whenever you go to do anything that's like good for you. Like I've been trying to read a book for quite a while, and I just didn't have time to during the quarter, like for school. But like I sat down multiple times in those weeks of just like not doing anything to read it. And I'm like, no, I can't read
No,
this.
no.
So it's like you just Momentum is definitely a real thing because when I'm on, dude, you always get what you need to done. But like this has been such a weird time because I don't know about you, but I just don't do well with at least a little structure. Like just being like, hey, you have 6 weeks to do nothing. What are you gonna do? And I don't know. I don't know what other people are doing, but
Right.
yeah, I think it might be time to maybe work on some habits, I guess, because I've heard it takes 20 to 30 days to change habits or create habits. It might be a good time. So I'm not doing anything better.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I like that. I like where your head's going. I think a lot of people are kind of like that they've done enough hours of Netflix and scrolling through their phones. They're probably like, damn, like I think I'm gonna probably do that too. I just feel like perhaps we're getting there. So let's direct. So for anybody who has never heard any of our previous podcasts, knows nothing of your background, I would like to ask your advice or your maybe recommendations or maybe a broad spectrum of things that people could be trying. I'm just thinking of everybody at home. Everybody needs to be stretching. They need to get some form of working out. They need to get some fresh air. They need to be mindful. Like all these little things that might be obvious to perhaps me or of course you. Like what can we kind of put a flare up about as far as what's important for like what people should be paying attention to at this time. What should they be actively doing?
Like just for wellness in general, like peace of mind, just fitness. Like
Yeah, I suppose. And if there's things that people need that I'm not covering, that I'm not seeing, we'll definitely cover that too. If there's things that you're seeing by maybe interacting with more people or having more people around you, maybe you're seeing things that people need that I'm not. So also open court.
honestly, so your body runs on like an internal clock that really depends on you going to sleep and waking up at a pretty consistent time. And against what I've done, I mean, I got my sleep schedule back together, but maintaining like I go to bed at 11, wake up at 7 sleep schedule is going to help your sense of well-being a lot, and your body is just going to function a lot better. So that's one of the easiest things you can do. I mean, because it's like if you're going to be up for 16 hours no matter what, you might as well just shift it back. And that's easy. That's real easy work. You don't have to run, don't have to do anything for that. But I would say definitely try to sweat every day somehow. I don't care what it looks like. Like
Mm,
cleaning, laundry, do whatever you need to do. Just move, because I mean, a lot of people have always said, like a body in motion stays in motion. So when you just kind of, especially if you've already been into fitness, if you just stop moving, like you're gonna feel like shit. You're not gonna think very well. Like your sense of well being is gonna be pretty down.
mm.
So I mean, in body weight workouts, I've seen people bash them on the internet, like, oh, you're not gonna get what you want, but you're gonna get something.
Yeah,
And
dude.
from all the science I've ever seen, you're gonna hold on to like you're gonna maintain fitness level if you're already fit. And if you haven't been working out, it's a good time to start because
Right.
no one's gonna judge you in your house. Go into another room. Like this is the great equalizer for
Right.
fitness. You know, like every fit person now has to take 2 months off. So if you want to get on it, we're all doing body weight squats.
Right. Well, let's talk about those people who will start at the ground level where people who like really don't know shit about working out. Like they admittedly they're like, I don't know anything about working out, but like let's do it. I know it's gonna be better for mental health, my physical health, whatever. What would be some recommendations? I think the first thing that I would say is stretching. Stretching super important to me. Um, but I think that there's so many different facets and so many different ways to like be active, like or just be moving your body, like even just like moving your neck around and your eyeballs and your face. Like there's so many little things that could benefit um, just movement practice at home. Well, what do you got? What would you recommend to people who are trying to get off the ground?
Well, stretching's not a bad place to start. I mean, most people cite pain as a reason not to exercise. And I mean, I'm sure you've been on like a plane for 8 hours or sat down for a long time. You get really stiff. Like there's tissue in between your muscle fibers that's like kind of a liquid and kind of a solid. And when you don't move it for a while, it gets really hard. You stiffen up. So when you start moving again, it gets all slidey and nice. So just like waking up and stretching however you see fit. Honestly, you're not going to hurt yourself. Whatever you want to do, just like no headstands will probably be good, but just do what feels good.
Mm,
Like to definitely remember to breathe as well. But yeah, I would say for fitness stuff, like start with don't do anything crazy. Stick to the basics. Like body weight squats, I would stick to leg movements at least for a little while, so you can get a lot out of them.
Right. What do you do? What's your at home like workout? Like, so you obviously go to the gym, but if you were not able to, and you're like, all right, I got to work at home, what would your situation be like? Would you like
Well,
lift up water jugs? Like what, like where are you at?
I'll for sure buy some bands with different strength intentions. Like
Mhm.
some on Amazon, there's like kits. There's like 5 bands that you can clip onto handles, and that'll pretty much get you everything you need. Honestly, I mean, like anything that's not going to do for you or you can't do with body weight is probably not super necessary right now. So, but without weight, if you have not been exercising, just stick to body weight stuff. It's going to be enough. But if you have been exercising, I would really shoot like because you can't load so heavy. I would like go to failure, like make it really intense because you just need to have an intensifying technique. Like you can either do a lot of reps, do them really heavy, or do them really frequently. Like you can't do them really heavy, but you can do these other two. So you can do body weight squats every day or every other day, and you can do a lot of them very intensely. Like you don't like not everything needs to be super heavy, and the whole like marriage to heavyweight is I even when I'm at the gym, I don't think that's really the case. So like you can get way more out of just how much you weigh moving it around
Mhm.
than people think.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like you can do so much with your body. We calculate everything, you know, like I always think I used to be so caught up in like the amount of reps and like making sure I would always like hit exactly 10 and exactly 10 on this side. And just like, okay, well, I know that I exactly started with 45s last week when I was on this muscle, so I got to go to this. And I think that thinking a little more broad about our health right now is important. Like just like who cares how much you could bench right now, who cares how much you could weigh right now, or how much you weigh right now. Like just think about like you're sitting around more, you're in sunshine a lot less. Like think about what you can do, maybe not to maintain every ounce of gains or progress or whatever, wherever you were, but rather just to try to find a new version of healthy while at home here in
Yeah, I think that this is an awesome time to get a good at all the shit that you're not good at, you've been neglecting, like mindfulness, breath work, flexibility, cardio, like all the stuff that people are like, some other time. Like, dude,
quarantine.
what else are you doing? Like, none of these things take weights. You can do them in your bedroom. Like, this is a really good time. Like, I started doing cardio again, started meditating like way more avidly than I was,
Mm.
started getting back into breath work, and it's been really nice.
Do you notice a difference? You notice you're kind of like fighting off the irritability more. You're feeling like you're kind of in grasp and in control a bit more, or
When I meditate for, well, you always meditate, but it's just not for long periods of time. Like usually like 5 minutes. I'll do 5 minutes in the morning. I've just always done that. But when I started to do it for like 10, 20, I noticed that I'm way less irritable. And you just, the amount of presence that you have is just much better. And it's almost just like if negativity or things that would irritate you or like water, you're just like covered in oil. Like you see it come at you and it just kind of bounces off. And you're like, well, you really can't
mm,
affect me.
right,
But if I'm not doing that, I'm super irritable normally. Like as a person before I got into any of it, extremely irritable.
right.
So
Yeah, I think that I one thing that I think that's going to come up a lot in this particular situation when everybody's locked in is it's so abrupt that I think before being mindful, there is a step. There's a step before being mindful, and that is awareness. I think how do people become aware that like instead of saying that's just me, anybody would be mad in that situation, anybody's like look what's going on in my life, here's why, instead of justifying why they're mad or why they're irritated or why they're like why they were the one who just won the silly argument with them and their loved one who are just too close right now for too long, like how do we become aware before becoming mindful?
well, that's kind of rough. I mean, I don't know if you can or like really will people out of ignorance. It seems to be kind of a natural thing that happens, but you definitely have more experience with this than I do. I mean, I can only speak to my own personal journey. Really, it's just just like kind of start to pay attention to stuff, and all of a sudden it's
Yeah.
like, oh wow, like maybe this is the way I am isn't necessarily a solid statement.
Right. Yeah, I think if you just start observing the way that you do things, and like now more than ever, we're kind of like we can't have distractions of out there. We're kind of just like forced to take a look at like, okay, what are my habits right now, and like what do those reflect, and what do I want from those habits? I think just taking a look at your habits. I think we've talked before about just like I think an example we've used was even just opening the door handle with your left hand rather than your right hand or something like that. Those little things where it's like you kind of just put a little wedge in what you normally do, just enough to where you can stop and say like, oh, okay, I'm doing this. Do I want to be doing this? What's the outcome of me doing this thing? And you could just start to like, oh, okay. And now that I'm noticing, now that I'm aware of this thing, um, I can watch myself do it next time and maybe make a different decision or whatever.
Tying your moment to moment actions to outcomes is probably very helpful. I mean, because if I don't do that, I will just, I mean, do only sloth like habits because that's like my natural state if I'm not paying attention. You just kind of like brush off all important stuff and you just kind of lay around. But when I'm paying attention to that, it just doesn't happen.
Right.
So
Yeah. Who doesn't want to be safe in their cave?
feels good, dude. It does feel good, but it doesn't actually feel good long run at all.
Yeah. So mindfulness, give people who are at home who don't know shit about mindfulness, who like they're convinced enough that they should probably be practicing mindfulness, but they don't know like really where to start. Where would you suggest anybody start to try to
I
be
mean,
mindful?
I would
How do
just
you
start
be mindful?
I would just start hyper analyzing yourself and what you do. Like
Mm,
do are like just what do you do and why do you do it? Why do you do it is the important one. It's like I sure I do a bunch of stuff and everyone does a bunch of stuff. They don't really know why they do it because they haven't analyzed it yet.
mm-hmm.
But once you start doing that, you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe this is not actually helpful.
Right.
That's a good place to start. And it doesn't have to be rooted in like any of what like people call like woo woo spiritualness. Like this is just purely analyzing who you are and what you
Mm-hmm.
do and what the outcomes of this are. And instead of just like rushing headlong through your life and doing stuff, you gotta like actually make a decision what you're gonna do because we just are kind of fall prey to just like this instinct habitual stuff that we all do and most people don't think about it. I would start there.
Yeah, cool. I agree. Yeah, I think that we don't really like take a look at what we're doing, but again, we're kind of forced to right now. There's a lot of people that are like, like I said, we're not able to keep scrolling and keep just watching the same news and keep having like the kind of like fake semi drama to talk about to fill our times with like, if you can have some sort of like silly reality TV show to talk about for 6 hours a day if you really wanted to, but now it's kind of like there's this like, oh, that's not super important, is it? Like that's an obvious feeling within everybody right now, you know?
Yeah.
So
Well,
everybody's kind of just like looking for like, oh, where do I point that attention? It's pointing back at them. So
yeah, I'm sure everyone's run out of stuff on every feed of every social media app they have and
mhm.
been like,
Did you know you could actually get to I think it's Instagram. I think you could actually get to the end. There's an end of it.
really?
Yeah. I don't know how absolute that is, but Shaylee told me one of her friends got to the end one day scrolling Instagram, and I was like, what?
Damn, that's a lot of scrolling.
Yeah, like what is that like just over the course of me pulling out my phone and now like I looked at everything within the last few days that everybody posted besides when I first started. That's not
Damn,
that
dude,
profound.
that's a lot of time though.
It's
Like I've
so much
scrolled for a while and that not even close, I don't
well,
think.
so looking at scrolling, like why do we even scroll? Like why do we want to know like what people are doing and what's like brand new in their life, over of course it's nice to know like what your friends are up to. It's nice to like, keep updated on people's lives. It's nice to know what your family's up to, but why do we choose that over taking care of ourselves and like doing even just simple things like man, I always did want to play guitar. Like why are you choosing to scroll right now rather than pick up that guitar that's in the back of the room? You know what I mean?
Hey,
Like seeing that I think is important.
I just don't think that people will even scroll to see how other people's lives are actually. Like, I don't think most people, like, dude, if you follow 800 people, do you really give a shit about most of their lives? I mean, like, abstractly, like, as a human being to human being, I hope they're really doing well, but you're not actually personally invested with these people.
Right.
You're just bored. And this is not enjoying, it's just satiating. Like, kinda. It's just like scratching an itch that'll never go away. Like this is just it's such an easy activity to do when you have nothing to do and it requires little to no thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why people do it because like all these other things, okay, learn how to play guitar. Well, that's hard and that requires vulnerability. And
Okay.
looking at Instagram does not at all. And it's right here. It's just I think it's just too accessible. It's not even good. I was looking at my phone. I'm like, dude, why do I even have this? I do not care what is on this at all. Like I was like, I don't even. I follow like 500 people, and every page that isn't a person, I was just like, I do I even like this? Am I even interested in this? Dude, why do I use this?
Right.
This
Right.
was after like 7 to 8 days of just playing Xbox and sitting on social media, and I'm like, dude, I am so tired of this
Yeah.
stuff because it just is not fulfilling.
Well, so do you think there's people who I don't know, aren't going to be able to realize that they're like, okay, it's been 7 days, it's been this many days. Like, uh, did you think that they're just like prepping to go on to week two of the exact same thing?
Yeah, 100%.
Gift from Zoom. We've removed the 40-minute time limit on your group meeting. Well, that's fun. Thanks.
I yeah, I think well, dude, some people are drinking every day. Like people are. The problem is if you have vices and you run out, like you are not in your routine anymore, they will just nick at you. Nick,
Right.
nick, nick. Like mine is definitely sloth, and it definitely consumed me for like 10 days.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. Like we'll just lay around, play games. That's it. I
Yeah.
mean, it was kind of nice because I've been working so much, but it also is just not. I mean, I can see how people would fall into very destructive habits if it's not checked.
Right. So what are you gonna do now? I feel like I I battle my own ways, but I feel like I've been able to establish quite a decent routine. Like I even before like the quarantine thing, I just kind of live the isolated solitude, introverted life up here. When I'm not traveling, I'm kind of just making a work from home situation work. So I have my own ways of making sure I go for a run and make sure I go outside. There's things that have changed, obviously, and can change further because of the quarantine. But I don't know. I think I have quite a few ways. You know, like you mentioned, breath work and meditation, and planning at night and in the morning, running, all these sort of things. Um, what? So you mentioned that you had been slothy. Are you feeling less slothy? Are you feeling like you're gonna
Yeah, I
do
own it's
anything?
okay. So it was actually spring break. Like I'd
Spring break.
yeah. So I got the best GPA I've ever gotten in school. Like I've been working more than I've ever worked, and taking that week was actually just nice. Like I didn't feel bad about it. I
Good for
felt
you.
it was like it was earned. But after like a week, it was just not helpful anymore. It just felt bad. Like I didn't feel bad about it. I felt like I earned this. This is nice. This is a nice time to
Mhm.
relax. But so today I got up at 7 instead of 12 and 8. I basically I just started to control the controllables. So like I planned out my whole diet, planned out all my training because my family owns a gym, so I still get to exercise. So planned out all my training, and then I'm just gonna hammer that because it's something that I can really focus on. And I'm probably gonna start journaling. I haven't been doing that. It's something I've actually never really got into, but I
Yeah.
feel like I just have a lot of time to just kind of sit and think.
What's your ideas for journaling right now? Like, what do you think you're gonna start with?
Ooh,
I just sit down with a bullet point or what?
I probably just like free pose it. Honestly, just like sit down, whatever I feel like is the most, just whatever it profound that I think, or not even that, but just anything that comes to mind,
Yeah, there's
I
no
will carry
rules,
on.
right?
Yeah.
There's sometimes I'll make myself start with something because I just like I have so many ideas or the lack of ideas that make sense that I just got to be like, dude, just put a little dot at the top of the page and start a bullet point and just write whatever one sentence, even if the rest of the piece of paper has nothing to do with that first sentence, or it's like 17 different thoughts. like that's okay. I think just getting it out there, because sometimes you'll look at a piece of paper after you just wrote and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know I thought any of that stuff. You don't know what you think about until you think about it, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, and thoughts are so fleeting too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I wish that I would take voice memos more, or would have for the last like 5 years. Whenever I think of anything that I enjoy, because you
Mm,
always will forget. But
right.
I think that just controlling the controllables right now is going to be the most important part of just feeling satisfied and not frightened. Because it's like the world is insane currently, and everyone's life has been shaken up. And if you just don't, well, you're just gonna have to control only what you can. You can't worry about anything else. Because I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed that it's just a person is really smart, intelligent, like well thought out, rational being, but people are really dumb and panicky, and we're coming together to be people. We're panicking.
Mm.
We need to be a person. I
We
think
need,
that yeah, an individual, because people like, dude, I don't know if you've been on social media lately, but people are like one person. It just takes one fool in the group of many people that aren't foolish to panic, and now everyone is panicking.
right.
So
Yeah.
got
What are you seeing on social media, like from an outside perspective of people maybe self-sabotaging themselves? Like, because obviously a consumption of the wrong media, a consumption of news about the coronavirus, or even just crappy news about it, any news about it is obviously bad. But I think that people, even with like self-deprecating memes and just like liking hateful tweets about it, or like I don't know. I think there's a lot that we do to ourselves that we don't realize. We think it's just making us laugh and it's just entertainment, but I think that it actually harms us. What are you seeing on social media?
well, I mean, I just think that it's very sensational right now, and they're just like blasting the death toll every day, and I'm sure it affects people's psyche quite a lot. It just to see this happening, and then also people just I mean, I would assume that in a time of one of the greatest vulnerabilities that I have ever seen in my whole life, that people would stop pooping on each other and
Mm-hmm.
like kind of rally and gain some empathy for everyone's situation. Like, hey, man, this is affecting everyone,
Right.
but just you never stop the internet hate. And I would say just stop using Twitter. Just get off. Just get off
Twitter's
Twitter,
fucking rough, man.
dude. Get off Twitter and Facebook. Like you can go to some nice quiet hole in Reddit with only nice people. You can
Mm.
find a community for that. But Facebook and Twitter are hot garbage.
I've got a good idea. One that I would. So this is kind of what I did. I feel like when I quit my social media, I'm back full force now. I'm totally like addicted to this stupid thing again. It's freaking Instagram. But so I had quit for a year. But what I did is I feel like I kind of like traded addictions in a weird way. Like I just started massively being on YouTube. Like I said, fuck Instagram, fuck Facebook, fuck
Dude,
Twitter. Um,
that's
but
exactly what I do.
like don't follow anybody that you know. Who cares? Like you're going to talk to your friends that you're already group messaging. Otherwise, like the people who like if somebody really wants to talk to you on Snapchat, like they're going to have your number. Like these things, it doesn't matter. I think getting rid of these things, or even taking like a few day break, maybe a week break, 10-day break. You're not going to die. You're not going to burst into flames, and just fill all that time when you do pick up your phone instead of just because it's kind of hard to just all of a sudden cold turkey your addictions, even if it is just the silly phone. But dude, just get on there and start like watching interesting stuff. Have a headphone in. I don't know. I think trading your social media addictions to YouTube or some other positive something app. What do you think about that?
Dude, YouTube is actually where I spend all my time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not really the actual social apps. It's just
Mm-hmm.
watching YouTube. It's not even really watching it. It's just always in the background playing,
Mm-hmm.
which is also not great because you just don't get time to think about stuff. Because I
Right.
notice this is how I know that I've been intaking way too much media. So we come home from work, have about a 15-minute drive. I'm not going to listen to anything. I'll set my phone down. And it's just thought, 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 and they're all important. It's like all shit that I should have been thinking about that are
Mm-hmm.
like of great importance to me, and I just haven't been because I've just been watching 8 hours of YouTube a day.
Right.
Yeah, so I think there's a place for silence as well, but it's
Yeah.
definitely you can make YouTube a lot less hateful than Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter is one of the vilest places I've ever been. It is like the butthole of the internet.
Yeah, it's funny. I watched this. I heard something or watched this. Essentially, somebody was talking about like the language that you can say on the internet versus like, let alone real life, but Facebook. So, say Twitter. On Twitter, you can be like, "Oh, I fucking hate myself," and people are like, "Yeah, fuck life, bro." Like they're like commenting, and then on Facebook, if you said, "I fucking hate myself," like grandma would be like, "Are you okay? This is devastating. Like, what's going on?" Like, and then in real life, like it's kind of the same thing. Like certain situations, you can't just be like crazy self-deprecating or like vulgar and ever like because Twitter just pushes right to the edge of like you're allowed to say that or like you're that's really what we're talking about. Okay, like it's just it's hilariously funny often, that's for sure, but it's mostly too much of just bite-sized entertainment, and you can't really get a ton of entertainment in bite-sized form in a clean format. So after a while, it's just
Or
shit excessive.
in a thoughtful format. It doesn't have to be clean. It's just not thoughtful or creative. It's just haha, life bad, want die. Like, like it's just it's not funny. And I honestly think that it's just the doomers. It's our generation. Like we got pushed into a world that's pretty much a hell world and no systems in place function at all. And we had the internet, so we didn't have to really eat all the propaganda that is being got fed to like our parents.
Right.
So yeah, like we have no like the world is literally on fire
Australia,
for
it's not there.
6 months out of the year. So I understand why people are like feel like that, but it's
Yeah.
just not helpful.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Gosh. Well, gosh, it's just so interesting to think about the fact that like as our parents are like watching, like we're walking past them on the couch as they're like watching like the same media, and we're like, you don't have to watch that, and they're like, no, you do. We're like, okay, and we like walk into the kitchen and we get on our laptops for like 10 years, and we're just like learning about how the world really works as they're just listening to how the world is working according to whoever is making the rules for them to think about shit.
Yeah. Which
It's
okay, so every major news outlet is owned by the same like few companies that all essentially work together.
mm-hmm,
So it's just like one agenda talking to all these people,
mm-hmm,
and it's not helpful. If you watch corporate media, stop. It is just propaganda. There's no way around it. I know I love your hosts, but most of them are like or like on the board of banks, like trust fund like these people are not like they're not your friend really. Like they just want to profit off you. So it's bad. Don't ingest it. It's literally like brain poison. If you want to get news, like go to some third party, go to YouTube, go find someone you like that's independent.
mm-hmm.
Stop watching that because it is just going to scare you and it's not good for your brain.
Right. I think that the aware, like, so for me, awareness, what I was mentioning earlier, and being mindful of what you're consuming. So, like, I had been excessively consuming, like, for there was a couple days where I was like, I'm not stressed, honestly. Like, I'm fine. I'm not like freaking out about it. But I was excessively consuming it, but I was consuming like long form videos of like biologists talking about the long form systematic like what things are going to look like. I'm just like learning about like this broad form of it. And I was like, well, this is fine. It's safe. I'm not like learning about like the dooms. Like this is just thinking about possibilities. This is thinking about what's next. But then I would start to notice, like after like 3 days of just a lot of that, I would wake up, woke up fourth day or whatever it was, and I was like, I'm feeling like kind of naturally despairing right now. Like I was like, I don't really have like a big pep in my step or a lot of like hope to pursue my dreams today, do I? Guess I'm gonna keep listening to those. And it's just it kind of steals your thoughts without you really noticing, a lot of the times when we're just constantly consuming those things and we turn it right back on if we're not careful. So
Yeah, I ingest way too much news media, like independent news media, but just in general. Like I stay way too on top of like how the world is, and it's
mhm.
just not helpful. What's up,
it
buddy?
doesn't have it doesn't have to be bad news to be bad for you.
No. No,
But
it's
uh,
just too much. And it's also, I realized that, well, you watch 8 hours of YouTube a day, you're ingesting way more information than you can actually hold on to, but
mm,
it still affects how you feel. So it's like, not only is this super negative information, I'm not going to remember it, it's just affecting my mood. So it's not helpful, at least
right.
for me. Like, I guess some people might enjoy it, but I can't do it anymore. I'm so
Yeah,
tired of
dude,
it, dude.
it depends. Like, that's the thing is you got to just start like choosing what content you're consuming. Like, yeah, maybe it is enjoyable to watch like your favorite people on your favorite TV show again, or like a new TV show, the hottest TV show, all your favorite movies. Like, there is times for that, but I feel like setting that as like a let's only watch TV at night, and like not saying that you don't have to stay completely away from technology all the time if that's not your jive, but make it to where like throughout the day, if you're not working or you're not doing something, you're not just laying on the couch. So I think like walking around, like kind of like listening to something, like maybe even not even watching it, like as you're working out, as you're doing laundry, consume some good content, not just like background music or the news or The Office for the 25th time, which I don't blame you. But I want to talk about breath work and stretching. Do you have experience in breath work and stretching?
Probably not as much as you do, to be honest. So why don't you kick it off? What do you think
Breath
is
work.
good?
I do Wim Hof breathing primarily. I do a lot of breath work in general, just because yoga introduces just, I mean, pranayama kind of just like introduces familiarity with breathing and like how it's connected to your body. And so I feel like I've at this point, breath work is important to me, but it's not like a separate thing than what I do in my daily life. Like when I wake up in the mornings, I do some stretches like before I even go take a leak. Like I unplug my phone and I set it down, and then like before I get changed into like my like walk around clothes or whatever it is, like I just start stretching, kind of like breathing and sending breath in. So um it eventually becomes like a very normal thing. It might seem kind of weird to do breath work now. Like if you saw somebody just sitting on the ground breathing in and out, like with a timer in front of them, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like it just seems weird, but it's certainly not after you just get used to it and realize it's only weird if someone else's opinion. But I do Wim Hof breathing, doing it not every single day, but I would say probably at least 4 times a week. I just did like literally actually before this podcast, I did 3 rounds of 30. Um, and so Wim Hof breathing, you can look it up. Any listener, you can look it up on the interwebs. It's on YouTube. He has a free app. You can learn anything about him. Like there's just all over. Just check out YouTube. Wim Hof, WIMHOFF. And so essentially, um, you get very present and you stay focused, and you breathe in through your belly and breathe up into your chest, and it has like a certain sequence, like a out in out, and you keep that going for 30 rounds. And it's not like the 30 as a magical number. When you hit 30, like the heavens of the gates open up. It's not really like that, just following on the apps, 30 rounds. Then you let your breath out, and when your air is emptied, you hold your breath. And here's where you're able to hold your breath for a lot longer than you think you can. You do a couple more rounds of these. And at the end of you holding your breath, you breathe back in and hold that for 15 more seconds. And then you restart around. So probably over explained it really, but breath work is fantastic. It really works to like help me keep focused, get present. It helps me like let go of a lot of the muscles that I'm didn't realize that I was tensing up. I personally, my breath work when I do my Wim Hof breathing, it's right before my runs. I would not recommend that. I think we've had this discussion before. I don't recommend doing Wim Hof breathing before you run to just like
You can
whoever.
pretty sure you can black out.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah,
have a familiarity with your own body and your own mental. Like I've been pushing myself to these edges for a long time. It's not like weird to me. I know when I'm in a blackout, but yeah, I like to do it before I go on a run, and it really helps me mentally lock into my run. And there's so many other benefits of the breath work.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
What
Yeah.
about you? What's
So I every single morning. Well, I don't always do Wim Hof breathing in the morning, but I will some days. I combine it with cold showers, and
mm,
it's not necessarily, it's more of a utilitarian function. I use it to wake up because it both cold showers and Wim Hof both jack up your endorphins and adrenaline. So you wake up, because this is how I trained myself to be a morning person. It was just like, okay, we start getting up, and I started doing these like really hyper stimulating like breathing techniques. Like sometimes I'll do like fire breathings or dragon's breath, which is like a
Mm,
really hard diaphragmatic breath. It requires a lot of core and diaphragm control, and it almost looks like just somebody's hyperventilating, but
right.
like I assure you, it's much more. Definitely YouTube it. Um, I actually initially got into breath work to would just be stronger. Like I started focusing on just controlling my diaphragm in the weight room, and I was like, wow, doing this has made me much more powerful like this.
Mm,
Maybe there's something to it. And then I got into the more like wellness side of it. But I use Wim Hof breathing mostly just as a tool to get up and it'll wake you up real quick. You want to be really clear, really fast. That's a good form of breath work. I recommend some simple counts of breath work to my clients who like deal with anxiety, or sometimes I'll run live streams on like our gym page, and I'll like run them through like a really simple breath work. I usually like 4-4-6, so in for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. Like after people exercise to like calm
mm,
down their nervous system, because you usually want to get in like a healing, calming state after you
yeah.
exercise. It's not good to be all riled up for that long. So, and then when people are trying to sleep, I do in for 4, hold for 6, out for 7, and that should calm you down quite a bit.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's funny, and I feel like you could probably back me up on this, or tell me your experience, but I feel like with breath work, it's one of those things where if you can just get yourself to do it, you'll realize like there's nobody, like you can be ticked off, you can be like your heart rate's elevated. And if you just do the breath work, like if you just, all right, I know you're irritated, man. I know you're like hype, like I know you're like all amped up right now, but just take the time and do the, 5 in, 5 out for 4 sets or whatever breath work it is. It's like inevitable at the end. They're gonna have a little smirk on their face, like, oh, okay, I get that.
Dude,
It's
in for 4, hold for 4, out for 6 is what I do whenever I feel like, if I ever feel anxious or
mhm,
upset or like riled up in any way, or like I need to
mhm,
think, but I'm too in like a state of like anger, or, well, it just in a non opportune emotional state. Dude, it always works. And the fun thing about breath is that you will literally, you can, whatever state that you want to bring about, you can do it. You can use
mhm,
breath to bring about. Like if you want to get really amped up, you can do that. You can raise your heart rate. If you want to slow down, you could also do that.
yep.
It's like this is a free tool that everyone does, but nobody utilizes. And it's free.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to pay for it. Like you can just get on YouTube and like figure out how to breathe. You can
Yeah,
do it.
dude, it's an incredible tool. I feel like we don't use it very often just because it's weird. Like that's
Oh,
what it is. I mean,
yeah.
think about working out in the 1800s, like working out. Like if you saw somebody, people obviously probably didn't like work out with a dumbbell back then. If you saw somebody just perfectly like having their arm at their side, just lifting it up and down, doing a bicep curl with some sort of weight, you'd be like, what is that weird guy doing? And you wouldn't even be able to compare him to a robot because you wouldn't see robots back then.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, dude, weightlifting is inherently breath work.
Mm,
Like it's
right,
part of it. Like, dude, if you
right.
exercise, like you just engage in this. And this is my personal theory. There's no science backing this, but I feel like when people run, the reason that they like it so much is because they're finally breathing diaphragmatically.
Right.
Yeah, like people are actually breathe. Like that's why it's such a potent stress reliever. Also, like exercise and endorphins do that too. But I think a big part of it is like you're finally breathing. You're not shallow breathing,
Mm,
and your posture is probably better than it usually is because you're running. Which posture
mhm.
is actually a really big part of
Posture is
why
definitely
we
something I wanted to talk about too.
why we suck ass at breathing normally. Like people have terrible breathing patterns. Like I
Mm.
do. I mean, yours are probably pretty good, better than most, but like
Mine used to
have
be really bad.
we just have had bad posture for so long. Almost everyone that are, and nobody talks about breath. Like nobody teach you to breathe in school. Like it is just, yeah,
Right.
no shit, I know how to breathe, but do you really though?
Hmm.
And once you get the classic hips tilted, shoulders forward, hips through, like hunkered down, round
Hmm.
back posture, and look where your rib cage is.
Hmm.
It's just caving in on itself. So you
Right.
never get this that big
Right.
open up. And
Yeah.
this can affect like cognitive ability. Like you can have, so I read a study that when they fixed people's breath work, all the adhesions or knots in their back went away in like 2 months.
Mm.
Like maybe people like all this upper back, shoulder, neck pain that people have is just because we breathe like shit. I really think that.
Dude, I'm with you on there. I'm huge about breathing correctly. Like it's such a profound thing, and it also I think that it has a lot to do. Honestly, breathing has a lot to do with posture for me. I feel like it's actually really close related because there's always like anytime I'm doing a breath work, there's always like when I'm done doing it or I take my last breath, there's always kind of like a settling in, like okay, that's my last breath.
Yeah, this is
And
not even
from
just for
there,
you. Like this
yeah,
is just true. It definitely affects
yeah.
it. Like when you have bad posture, you're gonna breathe poorly.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah,
end of
no,
story.
it affects your physiology hardcore. I mean, I breathe from my belly now. I used to breathe from my chest before, but it's definitely something. So as I'm doing not only Wim Hof breathing, as I'm doing, I have like multiple things throughout the day, especially being at home, where I install and I kind of give these things power. I give myself like, okay, stand up, be astute, be tall, posture, chest out, like these sort of things. So I think a lot of people could add these to their breath work, like cold showers. I take my regular shower, and then at the end, a lot of times what I do, there's this, I don't know, it's kind of like weird to explain, but you kind of force the breath up from the bottom of your belly right as you thrust down and you pull in. I usually do a lot of times I'll do 30 of those and then I'll turn the water to cold, do 2 minutes of cold. And for me, I that's where I insert my sort of like Tony Robbins, like badassery, right? Like, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wise, I'm healthy. Why am I doing this cold shower? Because I do uncomfortable things because I'm not afraid of it. And like, just this installing of whatever. But at the same time, I'm fixing my posture. I'm standing up as tall as I can. I'm pushing my chest out. When I go on runs, I'm not just running to burn calories. I'm not just trying to lose weight. I'm running to work on my posture too, because I'm in posture practice. I'm in positive influence practice. I think that this way of thinking, like inserting little breath work and posture work and whatever into people's daily lives, is going to be pretty important in the quarantine. I think what else could you say about posture, Spencer? Because I'm envisioning a lot of people, like, for one, not having to dress up, not like, imagine like your posture just going out in public, like you just have your chest more open, you're like kind of proud of the clothes you're wearing, rather than like if you've been wearing the same pair of sweatpants for 3 days, you're just all slob and your hair's messed up and your shoulders are forward. Like it's just kind of a natural thing to think about. I think we're all going to be experiencing a little bit of the hunching and the uncomfortable and the not as much upper body lifting as we're used to. So what else could be said about posture and recommendations there, Spencer?
Well, stop sitting so much. Really. You want to fix your posture? Like not don't this not what we need. Like you want to line your shoulders up with your ears, your head comes back.
Right.
So like that, like the classic keyboard posture, this thing, which I'm
Mm,
sure we're all doing way more than usual, even though we already do it a lot, is definitely. I mean, I'm sure your hips hurt from sitting, I'm sure your back hurts. Like
mm,
one of the worst things, like dude, lay down on your stomach. Honestly, it's a really good way to fix your posture. Is to
mm.
just instead of like I'm gonna sit down and watch this TV show on my phone, lay on your stomach, drive your elbows into the ground, and push your back flat. Because now that's the opposite of this. You're opening
Mm.
all the way up.
Yeah, I like also including in that when you're laying on your stomach, because I think I put my thumbs like probably around my ribs there, and I lift up, but I actually keep my chin tucked, and I keep my face looking down at the ground, and so I'm getting a lot of length in the back of my neck here as I'm pushing flat against the floor, stretching against, like almost as if my heels are being pulled and the top of my head's being pulled as well, but I'm facing down. So yeah, like you said, it creates like a long line. I think that's a good one. Yeah, laying on the stomach. What else we got?
Like for solutions or why you should get better posture.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if you look at your tongue, your diaphragm, so your mid chest right below your collarbone, and your hips, like plates here, they should all be lying flat on each other. So if
Mm,
your hips are tilted forward and your rib cage is tilted this way and your chin is tilted this way, which is how most people stand, you're gonna have bad posture. So most people, their hips shift forward, so it looks like they're sticking their butt out. That's what's happening. Get this big bend in the lower back, shift them down, contract your abdomen, pull your hips underneath you, and then sit your rib cage while also contracting your abdomen over your hips, and then push your head back with your chin parallel to the ground. You should line all these things up, and then that is now where you should stand.
Right. Yeah, I
Because,
think that's good. Yeah.
because I mean, and if you want some testament to this, all right, let's say you have a car, you take one tire, you angle it 1 degree. Okay, it's really not going to be a problem today, but it's going to be a massive problem in a year. Like you just are
Absolutely.
slowly, and like all these little discrepancies in your body that aren't lining up how they're supposed to will slowly become like, okay, my ankle mobility is bad, so now my left shoulder hurts. Like all of this is connected, and when you don't pay attention to it and don't treat it well, it's just gonna break.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think understanding that these things can be improved too, like just like so many of these things in this area, like where you're working on yourself, your body, your posture, your mental health, whatever. You aren't just born with one thing, and you have to live with that and learn how to live with that forever.
Yeah.
Like it's like
Let's.
you aren't born with bad posture, and you have to have bad posture forever. If you need to open up your physiology and open up your chest, now is a great time to do it and practice doing it and becoming aware that you're doing it.
Yeah, I tell my clients I never accept pain. Like one of the things I hate the most is when like some 40-year-old woman is like, my knee hurts. That's just the way it is. Isn't this what getting old's like? It's like, well,
Oof. Yeah, that's
no,
rough.
no, it's not. It doesn't have to be like this. Unless they've had like 4 knee surgeries, and it's like, okay, it probably is just like this. Like I mean, you just can't accept it. Like, why would you?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing structurally wrong with you. Like, you just need to figure out what is wrong,
Mm-hmm.
or I mean, at least try. Like, the moment you just accept these things, the moment they become permanent, and like, oh, I've got this, I've got that. Like, what you can't just say that. Like, this is a changeable thing. Like, I have bad posture. Well, you could have good posture if you wanted. Like, you
Yeah.
don't. You just doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah, I think we identify just as much as we identify with our job titles. We also identify with our labels too. Are like, oh, I am this, I have bad knees. Like we'll see how many times a day we can say it just to reinforce it. Make sure people know. I think that now it's just like, I don't know, you got the time, start exploring. Like, okay, maybe my knees are bad, but maybe they could be a little bit better. Like maybe I'm not going to run and climb Kilimanjaro, but maybe I can start stretching. And I think stretching is so freaking important. Stretching is there's no rules behind stretching is the thing. I think just at any time when you're at home, you've been working for a few hours, you don't have to set aside a workout like, oh, I got to work out today at this time. If you can have that planned out, that's great. But you could also just be, oh, I've been working for an hour and 20 minutes. My back's feeling a little tight. I'm going to lay on the ground and just aggressively stretch for the next 5 minutes and send my breath around and whatever. I think even little stretch breaks like that are muy importante.
Yeah, I don't know. I do really well with structure, but some people
Mm-hmm.
don't. Like, just do what feels good. I mean, okay. I feel very oddly about this because part of me as a personal trainer is like there is a good way to execute things and there's a bad way to execute things, but I also feel like you should just do what feels correct,
Mm.
and if it doesn't hurt, keep doing it. So just go with the flow. I mean, dude, you'll know what you need to do when you start stretching. Like you hit a spot and you're like, all right,
Mm.
that's the spot.
Do you feel like people are sometimes afraid to explore their own bodies in these way? Like they're afraid to like, oh, I'm afraid of doing it wrong. It's like, dude, it's just your body. Just check it out.
Well, and like, whoa, you think the foreign police are going to come down and beat you? Like, dude, like, there's no. I mean, there are people have asserted a bunch of rules, but do you have
Uh-huh.
to follow them? I don't know.
Right.
You might as well just see what's going on. A lot of rules you probably don't follow anyways in your regular
Right.
life. Like, why are you so scared of these ones? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yes,
that is true.
I think people are scared of exploring like their body in like a holistic sense in general, like their mind, what they enjoy in any way. Like it's just I'm comfortable. I don't want to do anything wrong, so I'm just going to continue to be this way.
If you don't have to question your beliefs, why would you?
Now, why would you? I do believe that is not. I think Epicurean says the uninspected life is not worth living.
Mm.
Or you might as well like if you're going to live and not inspect your life, you might as well like what's the difference in that and being dead? There's really none. Like to me, this is what life's about. Is just figure out what you like,
Mm.
test a bunch of ideas, move around how you want, see what works for you. Like So
Right.
if you, like if your body and your life is like just a big push board of buttons, and you only push like 4 or 5 of them before you die, what if like those aren't your favorite buttons?
Right.
A whole bunch of buttons. You might as well go push them. Like, and what if you push one and don't like it? Well, shit, don't push it again. You
Yeah, that's all you got to know.
might as well go try stuff.
We
So
define ourselves by our button pushing.
yeah,
You're the whole board, man. You could check it all out.
and I think that people just, I mean, everyone to some degree has a tendency to choose comfort, but there's also the human urge for novelty, and you just
Mhm. Right.
gotta get out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of novelty. But I think that I think a lot of finding our edge of comfort, like comfort at a time like this, is kind of like choosing dread later. Like a lot of comfort is kind of like alcohol, right? Where you're like almost borrowing a little bit of happiness from tomorrow. Like, yeah, I can drink a little bit more. It's going to be a little more fun. Maybe I'm going to like bullshit more with my dumb friends. But tomorrow I'm going to feel less happy than I would have if I don't do this. You're almost borrowing it. So I think it's almost, if you see comfort now as like, okay, yeah, like I don't necessarily want to get off my butt and turn off the TV, but I think that I know that the little bit of uncomfort now will pay off later, and it's not borrowing happiness from tomorrow. It's kind of adding a little bit of potential layer of happiness to build off of tomorrow.
And
So,
this actually brings up something that I kind of want to pick on a little bit. The internet perception of what self care is and then what it actually is.
mm,
Like everyone's like, I'm just participating in self care. I'm just doing this thing, but it's obvious. It's like this thing that is over not even that long of a term, pretty detrimental. Like I'm gonna go get drunk because it's self care, or I'm gonna just like lay around, and that can be self care. But it's like there's all these like people align like a lot of destructive, pleasurable habits with just self care or like blatant like buying a bunch of things. Like
mm,
these things are not like what did that fix? Like, wouldn't self care be like finding something out about yourself, or maybe pursuing one of these things that doesn't have this pleasure to displeasure curve like booze? It's like if drinking is really not self care, like, and I would argue that people are like hedonism is like, oh, you're gonna go do a bunch of drugs, do all these things, but no, because you're gonna feel greater sadness after this is done than the happiness was worth. So this is not hedonistic. This is
mm.
not. It's not good. So,
Yeah, it's trying to
so
borrow.
a little
It's
tangent.
borrowing something from tomorrow. No, I agree. I think that that's important. I think that a lot of people are. Well, I mean, I guess I don't know, but it's. I bet that a lot of people are probably trying to like drink their way through this thing.
Oh,
Um,
I've definitely seen it. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
but people probably drink their way through their days anyways. They're just now have time to Snapchat it.
right.
I don't know.
Oh
But
wow. Well, I mean, I think that's something. If I think that taking a look at the other people around you, and saying like if you're the one, if you're drinking, like what value are you offering to them? Like I don't know. I've had a I'm bridging on this particular subject, but I've had a lot of good progress with, because I know that I'm easily irritable after a while with my mom living here. So I've had a lot of progress on reminding myself, like not being self-centered, not being like, okay, what do I want? What do I want to do? Like, cool, like maybe I do want to get, I don't, but just an example, maybe I wanted to get drunk all day, and then like, maybe, but instead, I try to think of like how could I be valuable to my mom? Like what does my mom need? Like because I know that she's older and she's admittedly a little scared about this whole thing. It's a scary, like she doesn't know, like if I get it, am I going to be like really sick? Like she has prior, diabetes, these sort of things. But so I've been try to see things from her view, try to what does she want? She wants comfort, she wants to be understood, these sort of things. And the gap I'm bridging was just thinking about like people who might be like drunk all day when they could be maybe being more supportive to the people that are in the same household as them instead. Like instead of trying to focus on what do I want, well I want to get drunk, what you could do is before you even have a drink you could say, what does my mom want? What, like, can my mom use a little comforting? Like those sort of things. So I guess that's not super related, but that is a gap that you can correlate.
yeah, I agree. It's not up to me to shame people for their vices that I don't share, but I also think that it is pretty destructive if done to extremes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honest, and it's just well, it's just bad decision, death water. I mean, it's just poison. 100%. Like it's just not like it's just you smoke too much weed, you just like feel kind of groggy for a day, dude. If you drink too much booze, you just might die. Maybe.
You
Like
just might die.
yeah,
I don't know. I
so
think it affects everybody differently. Everybody has their vices so differently. Like if I smoke a ton of weed, if somebody smoked as much weed as I did, and it made them like sit there on the couch and like be a veg, just like not do much. It's not positively affecting their life. Like if you can't just be choosing fun and like content right now. If you're able to do a little bit of these things and they motivate you, like if you're like, oh, I've been waiting to clean the garage, like I'm gonna have maybe a couple beers while I clean the garage because it's gonna make me kind of like have some fun and dance around while I listen to music and clean my garage. Like you should enjoy your life and you should add these things into your life to enjoy it, but you shouldn't use these vices as the only way that you enjoy life.
yeah, I actually have a very healthy relationship with alcohol. I like really enjoy it. I don't drink a lot, but like it's always good whenever it happens. But I feel like I was saying earlier, like this is a time where if you have vices, they're just gonna nick away at you because you have nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure people are falling to them. Honestly, I wish that I smoked weed like consistently because it would make this so much more tolerable. It's just like such a nice introspective thing, and I'm just not used to it, so it's not fun.
Right. It's just massively intense to
Oh
a lot of people.
yes, yes.
Well, hey, it's never too late to start.
Yeah. Well, I honestly don't want to go into public to buy weed, and that's kind of where I'm at.
Oh, I know.
That's it. I
Yeah.
just don't want to go in there and like transact at all, or I
Yeah,
would.
those poor guys. Like, just thinking about like all the people on the other side of the cash registers, and like they're in such a constant state of fear. They're like, I don't know. Do I analyze this person? Do I think like, I don't know, did that person just cough before they handed me the money or Visa card? Like, it's like a constant state of everybody who's working right now, obviously, but like especially the people who are like, and next, next, like Burger King workers, like all the weed stores, alcohol stores, all these sort of thing.
All
It's
of
an
a
intimidating
sudden,
spot.
all the dregs of society working the minimum wage job are the important workers, but all the CEOs are at home in their house.
Mm,
Look at that. Jeff Bezos
mm.
making $8 million an hour. See,
Oh man, he is
uh,
our overlord.
I wish he wasn't. it's
Hey,
it's just absurd, honestly.
yeah,
Like the way, like just the way things are insane to me. It's
that's
nuts.
it, dude. I keep just ending with a sentence like, haha, we live in a virtual reality video game. Like, and then it's
Dude,
like, oh,
it is madness.
you just the way that things are is just super fucking weird.
I wish I could time travel then, or well, what is it? And just wait. You can just wait in games. Just gonna wait.
Yeah,
Back button. Wait.
I'm gonna
24
watch it.
hours.
Um, so I do want to end with a couple more suggestions. Can you just give me a couple suggestions of people that you follow, maybe on Instagram, YouTube, just like not necessarily just like COVID advice or just like self quarantine advice, but just maybe like I'm going to go ahead and say that for everybody ever right now, this is a time to like work on yourself in some way, whether that's mental or physical or whatever. So if you can just give me anybody that you watch or consume on any of these apps or anything that you can recommend to people, maybe like, hey, check this person out. You got anything?
Well, I'm gonna pull one. He's a fitness guy, but he does a lot of like stoic mindfulness stuff. So if you
Mm.
weed through his podcast, you don't have to listen to like the complex metabolic hormone ones. Just like go to the ones that are obviously like life advice.
Read the descriptions.
His name is Jade Tita. He does a podcast called let me look at Next Level Human.
Mm, that's cool. That's
Yeah,
a cool name for a podcast.
yeah, he's great. He's very reasonable. I mean, he speaks about complex things like very well, like very clearly, and it's very nice. And he's just a stoic. Just I really enjoy his content. Like creating purpose, managing fatigue and mindset in the gym. Let's see. A lot of it is just like how to live a good life. Essentially, he actually wrote a book called Next Level Human, and it's basically a stoic book.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I like.
Cool.
I try to pick one that you don't ingest. So we didn't overlap. What about you?
Yeah. No, yeah, I haven't checked that one out. I'm definitely gonna have to check that one out. What about me? I actually didn't priorly plan this. I'm gonna say I think I've probably suggested this before, but I'll just reiterate. Tom Bilyeu, Bilyeu, and his wife Lisa Bilyeu as well. Um, they his thing is just like when he was younger. He's actually from Tacoma originally, but when he was younger, he was just like, dude, I'm just like a poor dumb kid from Tacoma, and he just wanted to be smart. So he went on to co-found Quest Nutrition. He kind of like built his own like mind.
No, I know
Uh,
this guy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So and then from there he has a show on YouTube that I'm suggesting, it's in podcast form. It's called Impact Theory, and he has a bunch of like subdivisions of it. But like, dude, this guy, he's like intense. Like he is. It's like good to like listen. Like he hypes you up with his energy. Um, but he's also just like he's always going. Like every day he's posting at least one new thing. He's been doing this for years and years. He's like a motivational speaker. I think he's just another good one where you can kind of like read the title or glance at the description of any of his new stuff, old stuff, and it'll apply to like the time. And yeah, I think it's just like I kind of like you do, Spencer. I often have the podcast kind of just playing in the background. A lot of times I'm fairly fixated on it, but I don't know, podcasts and YouTube things that you don't really have to watch, which is many of them. You can put them on this speaker or that speaker or this room, or get a portable speaker or have it in your headphones. Like just kind of inserting these into, again, maybe it's not super healthy to be doing all the time. Make sure you do find some silence. But I feel like as far as conditions go now, where people are like, okay, I've sat at home and watched Netflix a lot and I've sat on the couch and now my body hurts. Like what else, what other options are there to do with life? Like how else do people do at home life? And I think this is a good solution is, maybe go to YouTube or podcasts and find one that you like, that you really are like, this is nice that I'm spending my time this way. And, you know,
Nice.
nice.
Let's see. I don't know if I have any other YouTube channels we'll check out. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I have quite a few. I'm always like dropping them. I think that the thing about
Oh,
YouTube, man, the data, the data that they have on you is weirdly a nice positive thing. Like they can start suggesting some like, okay, I'm watching Stoic philosophy, for example, and then they'll start suggesting like some clips from people who usually upload that sort of content that you've never heard before, or like, oh, you like this, so you likely like this, or maybe you like this in on YouTube. When you start hitting like, when you start hitting subscribe, like all these things, whatever, it starts suggesting more content that you might find better. So if you're consuming a bunch of Kardashians, it's going to suggest more Kardashian shit. But if you're consuming this good stuff, it's going to be like, oh, okay, this is the type of content that you want to consume. It'll feed it more to you, and it'll actually be things that you enjoy. It's not like this is going to be a work project where you're like, oh, I gotta watch more podcasts or listens to more shit. So
well, if you think about it like that, it will be though. So think about enjoying it.
yeah, true.
Like, yeah, like I will. The Eckhart Tolle has a YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, you like Eckhart Tolle?
Of course, dude.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that like I was shocked or anything. I don't know what I
Yeah,
said it like
yeah.
that, but dude, his story is interesting. Can you remember off the top of your head? He had I'm not fully remembering it, but he had tried to commit suicide and he had like an awakening instead. Did you hear about this?
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah, super profound. Now I'm totally gonna like want to go like relearn it.
yeah.
But
Have you read The Power of Now?
The Power of Now I've not read. No,
You
I've
you should read it. I mean,
it's
you might not need it. You kind of already do this thing, but it's a good book.
right. No, I have a my friend JC Randall. She said that it was like one of the books that like when she read it, it like changed the way that she thought about things. And I was like, oh,
Yeah,
no doubt. I
it
I
would.
listening to him on YouTube is pretty profound.
He looks so much different than I thought he was gonna look. He's a very like he's just an interesting looking guy,
I
and yeah,
know. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he's hard to figure out, but it's so interesting. Like it's in learning, like listening to all these different types of people with their different accents and their different demeanor and their different way of speaking. I feel like it like also just like gives you this level of patience for new types of people too, in a strange way too. Because I just thinking of the way that he talks, he's very like breath out. He's very just as a lot of like kind of like enlightened masters seem to be. It seems like they're never holding anything in. They're always
Mhm.
just kind of on the out breath as they're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enlightened masters. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, I mean, like if you really get bored, start reading. Find a
Yeah.
book. Yeah, start reading.
What'd you read when you were younger? What was your like when you were
Oh, I
high
love
school, middle
fantasy.
school?
I love fantasy. Like
Ooh,
me personally,
yeah.
but as an adult, I read pretty much like mindfulness books
Mm.
and like political theory because I'm a nerd. Ugh. Push my glasses back up.
Okay.
That's about it.
Yeah, I've actually recently I've had this like flirting thing in my stomach where I'm like, Jake, damn it, just do it. Like where because I used to read a lot of fantasy when I was younger, but then like the last 2 years when I started like reading again, it's just been, self-help meditation, stoicism, Buddhism, like all these sort of like
Yeah.
just learning more, self-actualization really sort of uh corners of reading. But I've been thinking more that I want to actually reread some books that I read as a child. There was this book called The Far Side of the Mountain. It was like this dude like went out to the woods and he had like his own. He's like a teenager and he had his own like peregrine falcon. That was his pet. But and then fantasy books
Nice.
as well. I used to read too. That was like uh but yeah, I've been thinking I want to like maybe dip more back into that. So if I feel like I'm like working too much, I think I'm going to keep that on the back burner of like, you know what, I'm going to order like a fantasy audible book or a story that I used to like before instead of like making it all self help work, which I think is important too.
Dude, it's nice. It's just like a playground for the mind, you know. Like to, I just played played through The Witcher, a game I've been waiting to play for like 5 years. Is nice to just
Mm,
like turn off this and just like enjoy a story that has
right.
not. It's not set here, so there's no like real world implications. It's just like here's fairy tale land, go enjoy it, and that
Mm,
is pretty pure compared to what we actually have in real world.
right. Cool, man. I agree. I think we should likely wrap this up. I having some weird cutout, but I appreciate you doing this. I know it's like weird. I know it's not like as great as being in person. Obviously it's hard. Like, like you can't have as much banter. I feel like
Yeah,
I've noticed because it's kind of like the second that you notice that they're talking, or if you're like, oh shit, I've been talking too much and they don't really have a place to interject. It's a different type. But I think that it is valuable content, and I hope that, some listeners were able to like get some sort of like, oh, maybe I'm gonna do this a little bit differently now that times are everlasting in this manner. So I appreciate you, Spencer. Thanks for doing
yeah,
this.
dude. Let's do it again. Thanks for having me on, my boy.
Yeah, my friend. Cool. Sounds good. Listeners, have a good rest of your day. Please focus on your posture and all these other things that we mentioned. And Spencer and I will be back probably soon.
Sometime.
Yeah. All right.
Bye bye.